just to begin with, if you could just give us a little bit of information about yourself, your name, where you're from.
So I'm Ryan Lowe. I wrestle under the name the Real Ryan Lowe brand. I'm from Stalybridge, or Staley Vegas as I like to say on on the circuit, the only Vegas that matters. I'm 32 years old, and this is my first year wrestling. Really, I don't know what camera you actually want me to look at here, so I'll look at you. Right, okay, sweet.
That's cool. So why get into professional wrestling? What got you there?
I've loved wrestling since I was a kid, but I think the main thing that got me into it is I'm quite an entertainer. I'm an entertainer naturally. Like I said before, I'm a DJ and I sing. So it built with getting the audience going and having that interaction with people is kind of my forte in a sense. So I think I just kind of naturally fell into wanting to do it because of the fact that I loved it when I was a kid, and as I've grown up, it was just something that I really enjoyed.
So how did you get into doing shows, getting booked?
So I started at the Future Shock Performance Centre in Manchester. It was during COVID. I started modelling for my hairdresser when just before COVID, and I couldn't see very well without my glasses on. So I started trying contacts, and I'd actually tried wrestling in 2016 to begin with training, but because I couldn't see people across the ring, I didn't feel confident. If you don't feel confident in yourself, how can your opponent or the person you're dancing with in a nutshell, be confident in you? So I kind of stepped back, and when I got into modelling, I managed to start learning how to put contacts in, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to try and give it a go now, see what happens. And it's just kind of spiraled from there. So I started at Future Shock in July 2021, just post-COVID. It was the first beginners class back after COVID had finished, after we'd come out of the pandemic, and from there I joined LWF, which is one of the companies that I wrestle for in Chorley, and train with them pretty much every weekend. So
nice. And how did you decide? So you obviously mentioned that you were a heel. How did you decide? My character Ryan Lowe was going to be a bad guy.
Weirdly enough, I really wanted to be a face to start with. I'm very much all about LMFAO and like the party rock and whatnot. So the whole idea for my character, I mean, I wear zebra print pants at home normally, so it's not unlike me to wear zebra print. But for me, it was kind of like when I cut a promo in one of my promo classes, and it just felt natural being a heel. So me being a bad guy and being an arrogant ass in a nutshell, it weirdly came naturally to me, even though when I'm DJing I have to be perceived as a good guy because I want people to want to like hear me sing more or play more or whatever. So it was nice to be able to spin it around and go, you know what, I'm going to try something different.
Your character, do you see like a bit of yourself in him?
Oh yeah, it's all me, but it's just a kind of egotistical version of me. It's me amped up to 10. So that's why I think it's so believable that I could be that kind of a douche, because a lot of people can't differentiate the fact that I'm me, and to be fair, I am quite humble, but ironically I come out to You're So Humble by Lonely Island, and the idea of it is that the guy's not humble at all, he's a bit of a bell end in a nutshell, so it's it just kind of fits my character.
So I guess in terms of like your experience in the industry, like what is your aspirations? Where do you see your character going? Where do you see yourself going in the industry?
This is one thing that I've not really thought about, because if you think too highly of yourself, I mean, everyone wants to make it to like AEW or WWE. That's obviously the dream. But I've never really thought of it as I see myself going there. It's I'm enjoying the now, and if anything comes of it, absolutely brilliant. If not, at least I'm enjoying and having fun where I'm at. I'd love to go to like New Japan or to America to do it, but I think my goal right now is to literally try and get as many bookings as I can in the UK and make a name for myself in the UK. And it's slowly stepping stones. Obviously, it's my first year, but it's going the right way, hopefully.
And how do you go about getting bookings? Do you represent yourself?
Yeah, pretty much. So it's word of mouth. It can be so friends on the scene can help you out. So for example, the LWF management that they are wrestlers as well, so they could potentially put my name in elsewhere if they're wrestling there. Or you send your CV out, similar to just applying for a job really, but it's a wrestling CV with videos on it. You can also it's People Senior, which is one show that I got picked up on was for TWA, which is Tenacious Wrestling Alliance in Darwin. So the two owners of that wrestle for LWF and Future Shock, and they noticed my first and second match, and they were just like, we want you on the show. So from that, it's kind of generated obviously bookings. So
Yeah.
can't complain.
What's your style of wrestling? Like, how would you describe yourself?
Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, you can swear.
Yeah. I'm a shithouse heel. So I do everything in my power to make sure that I can get a cheap win, or basically I'm kind of like the Miz.
Yeah.
In the sense of I will do everything in my power to avoid fighting and get people to do my work for me, but where I have to fight I will fight. And I've not really, to be honest, I wouldn't really say I've got a style. It's I do dives. I'm in the middle of practicing doing I've not actually attempted it yet, but my last match that I had, the middle rope broke, so we had to wrestle with just literally 2 ropes. So the idea was I was going to try the Cody Rhodes spot where he steps onto the middle, steps onto the top and jumps out. But unfortunately because of that we couldn't give it a whirl. I'm actually scared of heights, so it's a big achievement for me to do that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't necessarily call myself a technical wrestler. I think I'm more like a brawler because of the fact that I like chopping people, just like absolutely I like having brawls before matches and whatnot. So yeah.
How would you describe? So you mentioned obviously you've been on a few shows. How would you describe the kind of crowds you've performed in front of?
It's mainly family friendly shows. So it's a lot of kids and families, young families. It's To be honest, it's a lot of fun. So you can get. You've got to be careful about what you say, so you're not allowed to swear and whatnot on the shows. But it makes you think more about what you're saying and where you can direct the audience to make them boo you, in a nutshell. So it's very entertaining, and the family atmosphere, it just kind of adds, because you don't have to necessarily be a wrestling fan to enjoy it. There are some places where you've got your hardcore wrestling fans that if you miss a move, or for example if you accidentally miss the rope when you're running the ropes, people will pick up on it and boo you and blah blah blah. But with the family aspect of it, they're just there for a good day out, and it's great to get them to let them feel entertained leaving. So that's
You wouldn't say it's like necessarily limiting on your like shithouse heel character at all?
No, not necessarily, because it makes you think more about what, like I said, what you have to say and where you can go with it. So yeah, fair enough. It limits you on certain things that you can do, you can't bring personal stuff into it. So like family members couldn't be included in certain matches and whatnot, but or rivalry builds. But it's a lot of fun in the sense of it makes you think more about what you can actually. So rather than just going F you, F him, F her, you've got to try and think of a way to insult people without actually using swear words and whatnot. So it's a lot of fun. And to be honest, I think it's easy to be able to swear to people like at the Die Hard shows. It's a lot harder to get out there, be put on the spot, and say what you've got to say without using vulgar language, as they say, to insult people. So
you mentioned about like Die Hard shows. Have you wrestled with Die Hard? Like, what would you class as a Die Hard show?
Well, Progress is definitely, I'd say, a Die Hard. And to be fair, Future Shock in a way is. You do get families going to Future Shock, but they do teeter on the hardcore wrestling fan to the family entertainment kind of it. again, it is a family show, but I feel like just for example, Future Shock are more the wrestling in it, the wrestling style, is a lot more pushed to the die-hard wrestling fans. So it's not. I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. I love Progress. I love Future Shock, but I just think it's easier to go out there and be able to just spitball whatever you want than having to go, hold on, can't say this on that show. What do I do instead?
Yeah, so possibly do you prefer performing for like the diehard, maybe adult audience?
I couldn't really say because I've not done it properly. I couldn't really
Yeah.
say. I'd love to be able to perform in front of the diehards, because then you can just get away with saying whatever you want, and it probably would help my character. Like you questioned before, it probably would help build my character in more ways. It gives me more of an avenue to go down. But I do enjoy the fact that I am limited in what I can say, what I can do, because of the fact that it makes you think on your feet a bit more. It makes you go, you know what, maybe I shouldn't be saying certain words to this audience, etc.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about your training. So you mentioned
Yes.
obviously that you went to a training school here in Manchester, a Future Shock.
Yes.
Can you describe like what that process was like? How long you were there for?
So I'm still technically there. I've just not been for a while. But the beginners course was really you basically learn all the basics. So you learn to roll on your first week, and then you learn how to take a front bump and a back bump, but you used a crash mat. And then you progressed into doing bumps in the ring, rolls obviously again. It's basically learning all the fundamentals before you actually get into the intermediates where you're starting to learn bigger moves. So in the basics you kind of learn like suplexes, body slams, and clotheslines, and how to chop people, how to hit people. It was, to be honest, it was a lot of fun because what they did like an icebreaker to start with, so that you kind of gelled with your class, because obviously everyone's new that's coming into it. And you kind of form bonds and friendships with them. So it's nice to kind of build each other up and kind of come on and progress together. I remember my first show was I was reffed by one of the girls that was in my beginners class with me. She wanted to be a referee, and it was nice to be able to share that experience with her. So, but once you then get from your beginners class, which is about 4 or 5 weeks, you go into your intermediate, where it does start to, your warm-ups in the beginners class would just kind of stretch out, do this, do that. With your intermediate and advanced, you then start going into a more intense drill. So you'd be doing like knees up in the corner for a minute, and then it'd be straight, you have 20 seconds rest going into something else, and blah 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 blah. And that's about a 7-minute round. Or you can do like a 52 card workout, which it might just concentrate on one body area. So it gets intense, but it's so worth it, and you realise that you're a lot fitter than you originally thought you was when you're doing it. So yeah.
Nice. Obviously you mentioned before, so you're obviously wrestling part-time, you have other avenues. So how much time outside of, let's say, just like the working the match itself, do you spend dedicated to, training for wrestling per week? Let's say?
I used to do a lot more, but home life has changed a bit now. I live on my own now, so I've got animals and whatnot. So I've got to focus on them as well. So I do about 2 hours a week wrestling wise, which is a Saturday. But I work shifts as well, so it all depends on when my shifts fall. I definitely have Saturdays to do wrestling. In the new year, I intend to go back to Future Shop, but I'm probably going to do about another 2 hours a week there. So it's what a lot of people tend to do. What I want to do as well is go to different wrestling schools, because the more you go to different wrestling schools, the more shows you get put on, and obviously the owners start to know you. You branch out to other places and blah blah blah. Just gets your name out there. So with that, it's kind of like, I think ideally I'd like to spend about 6 to 8 hours a week doing it, but as it stands at the minute, 2 is all I can actually manage with shows. So
How easy is it to get into the wrestling schools? Is it literally just payment for the course, or is there like a test or anything?
no, there's no test. So it's basically with Future Shock, for example, you do a 4 or 5 week course. It's £75 I think at the minute, and it's based every Saturday. So it's from like 12:30 till 2:30 or something like that. And the only issue you've got there is once a course starts, you've got to wait till the next one to sign up to it. And then from there you get added onto an app that invites you to all the classes that they have available during the week, weekends. For example, LWF, they have just a Wednesday beginners class, so you can just literally turn up to that, as obviously pay your subs on the day, and away you go. So it all varies on different schools, so it is quite easy to get into.
Yeah, sweet. Just checking. 15 minutes, that's not bad. I guess just like sort of closing thoughts, a couple more comments. Like, so how many matches have you wrestled? Do you know? You said you roughly did.
I think it's about 15.
Okay, and do you have a favourite match?
So I think I've got two. So my first match that I had, mainly because it was one of the guys was on his debut show as well, and being a DJ, having the DJ background, it kind of gave me the confidence to go into it and be able to just chat shit in a nutshell, because I was just able to just pick up a microphone and go, yeah, I hate you lot, you're all suck, blah 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 blah. And on this particular occasion, on my first show, the DJ's mic started tripping out. So I was nervous as hell because I was coming out before the main event. So I was stood in the back. Oh no, I tell a lie. I was stood round the back of the audience waiting to come through the crowd, and nervous. Cause I'd had this whole script planned out, and the mics tripped out, and I was just, everything kind of went at that point. I was just like, you know what, I've got something here. So I started slagging off the company, saying that they couldn't even get mics to work properly, and this, that and the other, that they didn't deserve me in their presence and whatnot. And as soon as I had a meeting out the palm of my hands booing me before my opponent walked out, and obviously at that point, didn't matter who walked through the curtain, they were going to cheer. It just so happened that it was a guy called Moonbear, who's all about peace and love, and it's a weird gimmick, but it worked really well for our first match, and yeah, we absolutely rocked it. And then my dream match I had on Saturday this weekend. We did a thing for charity called the Epilepsy Society for Wrestle. It was called Wrestle Story. So one of my really close friends that I actually started training with, he started training, but he had an injury and found out that he couldn't wrestle anymore. So he wanted to become like a bit of a manager, and he's working at it, but it's taking time. So he was like, you know what, when he found out that he had epilepsy, he was like, I want to put on a show to raise money for it. Wrestle Story came about, all based around the idea of Toy Story. And the first thing he said to me was, I'm going to put you with a guy called Tony Wright. Now, Tony's one of the nicest guys in the world, and since the day I met him at training, I've wanted to wrestle him. And Adam, my friend whose show it was like, as soon as he booked the show, he was like, right, you're wrestling him, I'm going to make it happen for you. And because we're both showmen, he's actually a comedian, stand-up comedian by trade. He's not anymore, but he was. So he knows how to be a showman, I know how to be a showman, and the fact that it just gelled and it worked. The crowd wasn't the loudest, but it was one of them moments that to me it was kind of like, I've got a picture that I posted yesterday that was taken of us stood kind of facing each other in the ring, and it felt like to me one of them Austin and The Rock, or Hogan and The Rock moments, where for me it was like a dream come true match. So I'm quite happy that was probably my favourite match so far, to be honest.
Sweet as. Nice.